Good evening to one and all who have joined us here, to all our viewers who are watching us live on YouTube channel or Facebook page. On behalf of DDS, I, Vandana Yadav, convener for the Debate and Discussion Society, extends my heartfelt congratulations to all the freshers, the first year law students who have joined the Campus Law Center. A very warm welcome to you all. Now, before acquainting you all with the working structure and initiatives of the society, I would request Dr. Seema Singh, faculty convener of DDS, to kindly address us. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Good evening to all of you, and I'm really very happy to see you all. I can't see your faces, but I can read your names. So definitely it is going to be a very brilliant experience to all of us from both sides, from my side as well as on your side. Vandana will definitely give you a brief idea, and maybe you are also aware that what kind of program we keep organizing and what is the purpose of debate, discussion, and seminar committee. So in the past also we have organized many crucial international seminars and many other programs like Courtroom Legends and the International Conference on Law and Spirituality. So basically what I wanted to tell to all of you that here you feel very free to to share your ideas. If you want to come up with any new idea which you want to be implemented in this debate and discussion society, or if you want to contact to me, you can easily contact to me and share your ideas with me also, because our purpose is also to enhance your inquisitivity and also your creativity. So these things are very much important, because I personally believe that this is something which should I personally try my level best to provide you an atmosphere where you could you could improve your personality, your overall personality, not only the way you are presenting yourself, but also the most important thing is how you are going to change your process of thinking, how to enhance the creativity. So in the coming months, as per now, we are going to organize some very brilliant program, and because that is my personal agenda, and I think that you all should be the part of this. That is the agenda of that should be the agenda of this committee. And the agenda is, we do not work only for faculty of law or only for this DDS society. Our purpose is much larger, and the basic purpose is to bring a change in the society and to do something which is very constructive and unprecedented in the history of any national law school or any law college. And the only purpose is to make the society, or to develop the society in the positive sense, or to introduce certain kind of reforms or rethinking process in the mind of the the stakeholders, like the persons belonging to legal academia, the advocates, the judges, the policy makers. And I will try my level best in this year, in this 1 year, so that we could with our collective efforts we could achieve something bigger. Because once I started this idea of India versus Bharat, because DDS committee has organized a seminar on how Bharat perceives India, jurisprudential insight, and after that there was a great debate across the India that what should be the name of what is the relationship between India and Bharat, and how basically these two jurisprudences are different from each other. And then you have seen we have seen that several kinds of national and international seminars were organized. Even Sai Deepak has written a book over the same topic, and a petition was filed just once we finished our international seminar. Immediately a petition was filed before the Supreme Court regarding the changing of the name of India to the name of the Bharat. And similarly, we are talking for a long time on the process of Indianization, and how Indianization doesn't mean that we are going to take a U-turn. Indianization means how this justice delivery system should be more effective. So, it's a type of consultation process, and I am very much happy that we are working on it for a quite long time. And now even the Supreme Court judges has started recognizing the importance of Indianization. So Indianization in itself has a very broad meaning. So definitely in the coming months, we are going to do certain things which are going to be very landmark in the history of at least history of the law faculties of the different universities. And another important thing is this year we are going to celebrate 75th year of our independence. So I personally feel that we should do something, to just to show our respect and tribute to the freedom fighters, especially if they are unsung heroes, because there are many names which are very much known to us, but there are many names which are highly unacknowledged, so they should receive their acknowledgement. So what is the purpose? What should be our collective purpose? Our collective purpose is to make this society very vibrant, very positive, very creative, and simultaneously we are the path breakers. Whatever we are going to do, that is going to be followed by all the institution in India and in abroad. That should be our motto. So somehow we will try to participate or influence, playing the role of the influencers in case of policy making, or once the judiciary is going to interpret the law, the things which they should keep in their mind while interpreting the law. So you just let's start doing this thing, learning from each other, and I hope that you all are going to contribute, and it is going to be our collective effort. And if you all are the part of the debate and discussion society, then please try to give your 100%, and the work specifically which has been allotted to you, you should definitely finish that work in time. So this timing is something which is very much important. Your seniors have they have created they have done an unprecedented role. They have performed an unprecedented role, and they have truly done very well in past 2 years. So the landmark has already been settled by them. You just have to follow that. And presently Vandana, Shubhangi, your convener and your co-conveners, they all are very cordial, they are very talented and hardworking. So you please learn from them. And also, if you want to put any of your ideas, we will provide you ample opportunity to enhance your creativity as well. So from my side, or from as a faculty member, as a convener of this DDS society, I can guarantee you that you are going to receive all type of supports and encouragement from my behalf. But in exchange of that, definitely I want that whenever we are going to introduce any idea, or we are going to work on any program, I seek the support from all of you. So with this, I'm not going to take so much of time, because I'm also not very well today and I have some other engagements. So all the best to all of you, and feel free to call me or contact me in case of any urgency. And if you have any new idea, please you discuss and share that idea to your convener Vandana, or you may contact to me or any other faculty member also. So with this, I'm just going to stop my opening remarks, and now it's over to Vandana. All the best to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Vandana, now you continue.
Yes,
With the
ma'am.
permission of all of you, I would like to leave, because I have some other works which are very much important, and I'm also feeling not very well today. So
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Genia is asking for my number, so you can share my number to any of them, or you can contact through Vandana. There is no problem.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Okay, all the best to all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am. So as I said, today in the orientation program, we will be making you acquaint with the DDS, its initiatives, and majorly we will talk about the induction process. So that how the first year students are inducted in the society and can be a part of its working committee. So this will be followed by an interactive session with Mr. Amish Aggarwala, a Supreme Court advocate and a popular YouTuber in the legal field. He's going to speak on the topic, Art of Oral Advocacy. I'm sure that this will be a very fruitful session for you all. Being new to the law school, you all must be having a lot of queries regarding your career choices, what kind of internships one should do. So you can ask all your doubts to Mr. Aggarwala directly. But before that, first we will talk about some of our past initiatives so that you become aware of all the events, competitions, and the debating culture of society in general. So now I request Ria to kindly share the presentation on the screen. Are you there, Ria? Thank you so much, Ria. So, Debate and Discussion Society, we call it DDS in CLC. It's one of the most active society of our college. As the name suggests, we deal with all the intra and inter debating competitions occurring for the law students, as well as we conduct several lectures, seminars, discussions on regular basis in order to promote free thoughts and opinion exchange. So people from all kind of ideologies, diverse backgrounds, they come together on this one platform. They debate and discuss various socio-legal or current issues. To keep the spirit of making constructive arguments intact, society conducts a plethora of events. One such flagship and most coveted event is TCOP. The TCOP, the CLC Opinion Project, it's an inter-debating competition where the participating students, they speak for or against a topic which is democratically chosen, a topic which is debatable and has polarizing opinions. For example, in the past, we have conducted TCOPs on Sabrimala verdict, Article 370, or the need of word secular in preamble, and so on. Now, coming to the question why it is called as a CLC opinion project, because at the end of this competition, all the students of campus, they vote for or against the motion statement, and on that basis, we decide the opinion of college. And also, this is a competition which is conducted bilingually. So both English and Hindi medium students, they are encouraged to participate in this. In the past, we have invited several notable legal luminaries to adjudicate the event, including senior advocate Aishwarya Bhati, who is currently the Additional Solicitor General of India, then Mr. J. Sai Deepak, advocate on record, Mr. Rahul Narayan, and so on. Now coming to the second initiative, it is CLC Town Hall, which is basically a panel discussion. Here, we invite several notable personalities from their respective fields. We will have eminent jurists, academicians, social activists, journalists, who all will speak on a given topic so that we can get a diverse set of views on single concerned issue. We have conducted several town halls in the past also on topics like NRC and JAC, which were burning topics back then. We also had a parliamentary visit where we were invited by Rajya Sabha TV. A lot of first year students went there and actively participate in a panel discussion on parliamentary democracy. Several veteran parliamentarians graced the session like Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi or Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe and likes. Apart from this, in the last 1 year, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, we switched to online medium and took several initiatives. One such highly successful event was a series with courtroom legends. To talk about this, I'll invite Ms. Shubhangi Jha, a second-year law student and co-convener of Debate and Discussion Society. Shubhangi, please. Yes, you are.
He merged situations in life, particularly
and meritocracy. Then we had Senior Advocate Sri Mohan Parasaran, former Solicitor General of India, addressing us on evolution of constitutional law by Supreme Court of India. On the fourth episode of the series, we had Senior Advocate Sri Gopal Subramaniam, former Solicitor General of India, who addressed us on Constitution as a dynamic instrument of change. In the final installment of the series, the valedictory session, we had Sri Tushar Mehta, Solicitor General of India, who addressed us on demystifying the freedom of speech and expression. This series was an experiment to get into the minds of stalwarts of the legal field, and the society wishes to continue with the series. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Toshita Joshi, student co-convener DDS, to tell us about our another initiative such as Abhigyan e-lecture series. Over to you, Toshita.
Thank you, Shubhangi. Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to all the freshers present and all the viewers who have joined us today. Under Abhigyan, DDS organizes a series of lectures on several academic topics delivered by the most distinguished and renowned experts in the field. It acts as a medium where students, teachers, and others they engage with the luminaries of their respected fields and they enrich themselves with the extensive knowledge of these experts. In the academic year 2021, under Abhigyan, the following insightful e-lectures were organized. Lecture on the New Education Policy 2020 by Professor Bhagwati Prakash Sharma, Vice Chancellor, Gautam Budh University. Lecture on Relevance of Gandhian Philosophy in the Contemporary World, delivered by Dr. Mahesh Chandra Sharma, former Member of Parliament from Rajya Sabha and the Editor-in-Chief of Manthan. Lecture on India's response to China's expansionist policies, delivered by Professor Kuldeep Chandra Agnihotri, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Himachal Pradesh. Then we had a lecture on the topic Consent in Rape Laws, delivered by Dr. Latika Vashisht, an assistant professor from Indian Law Institute. Further, we had a lecture on migrants and refugees, challenges for international law and policy, delivered by Padma Bhushan Professor Ved Nanda. Lastly, we had a lecture on fluidity, the fundamental paradigm of the Constitution, delivered by Senior Advocate Mr. R. Venkatamani. I would now request Mr. Shishir Kumar Rai, the Executive Member of Debate and Discussion Society, to take over. Over to you, Shishir.
Thank you, Toshita. Good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to all the freshers to the DDS Orientation. Despite the challenging times of the COVID, we at DDS strived and conducted some brilliant array of workshops and interactive sessions during the past academic year. The first in line was a training cum workshop organized on the topic of child rights and POCSO in collaboration with Delhi State Legal Services Authority. It was conducted by Ms. Harshita Mishra Ma'am, Metropolitan Magistrate and Secretary, Dalsa. The workshop gave a deep insight on the evolution, contemporary comparisons, and section-wise analysis of the important legislation. Further, DDS and the Gender Sensitization Committee of CLC, in collaboration with DALSA, presented a practical workshop on sexual harassment at workplace, followed by a series of questions from students. Participating students were provided with a certificate for attending both of these workshop training courses. Moving on to the interactive sessions, DDS, in collaboration with Bloomsbury, organized an interactive virtual session with none other than Mr. J. Sai Deepakji, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and author and topic of the book, India, that is Bharat, Coloniality, Civilization, and Constitution, which is now a bestseller in the political theory field. The session was marked by an insightful oratory overview of the book and the question-answer session, spanning from the experience of him as a lawyer to the deeper questions involving Indian culture and jurisprudence. We also organized an interactive virtual session on the topic, Importance of Debating and Public Speaking in Advocacy, which was addressed by Mr. Amish Aggarwala, Panelli Council for Union of India, Supreme Court of India. More recently, on the occasion of the National Youth Day on January 12th, DDS organized an interactive session on the topic of Relevance of Vivekananda in Modern India, addressed by Mr. Ram Madhav, author and Member Governing Council, India Foundation. Moving this year forward, we are motivated to organize a further array of such brilliant sessions and workshops. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Charvi Virmani, Student Executive Member, Debate and Discussion Society. Over to you, Charvi.
Thank you, Shishir. Good evening, everybody. The International Conference on Law and Spirituality was a joint initiative of Campus Law Center and the Ethicraft Club. It was aimed to shed light on the intersection of law and spirituality. It was a 3-day conference and was graced by 22 personalities of national and international repute from varied walks of life. The session was inaugurated by the Honorable Governor of Kerala, Shri Arif Mohammed Khan, and the 35th Chief Justice of India, Justice R.C. Lahoti. The keynote sessions were addressed by judicial experts, which included the former Judge of Supreme Court of India, Justice Ashok Bhushan, the former Chief Justice of Patna High Court, Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari, the Magistrate at the British Judiciary, Justice Kamlesh Kumar Patel. Sessions were delivered by various senior advocates and solicitors, which included Mr. C.S. Vaidyanathan, Mr. Vikramjit Banerjee, Mr. Sivakumar Rajagopal, Mr. R. Venkatramani, Mr. Ashok Mehta, Mr. J. Sai Deepak, Srimati Visanti Pillai, Mr. Brian Block. Since it was a conference aimed at students and researchers across the globe, there were sessions addressed by academicians like the Associate Professor of Gujarat National Law University, Dr. K. Parameswaram, author and co-founder of Maitri Speaks Trust, Srimati Sinu Joseph, author and professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, Dr. Makarand Paranjape, and Mr. Rodrigo Lobato. Not just this, the conference was also addressed by renowned motivational speaker, Mr. Vivek Bindra. The conference was culminated by a pre-launch of the book titled Law and Spirituality, Exploring the Bonds, for which over 200 papers and articles were submitted by academicians from across the globe. Now, I would request Vandana to take up the meet further.
Thank you, Charvi. So coming to one of our future initiative, which we will be launching very soon, is Kartavyam. It's a digital legal education project. Purpose is to inculcate a sense of duty towards principle of constitution and making law accessible to the common masses. So you all students will be given a chance here to make a presentation or a video of yours explaining the duties, rights, or procedures related to a concerned law. Basically, a quality legal content is required here that could be actually become a standard source. So that video will be posted on our official YouTube channel. This will be launched very soon. Second such initiative is our law journal. It is named as CSLR, that is CLC Student Law Review. It will be a peer-reviewed annual journal where students, scholars from across the world can publish their research papers, articles, and work. Again, this will be launched very soon. We have a student editorial board working for the same. And if you are interested to be a member of this editorial board, I welcome you to join. I will tell the process after a few minutes. Let's first come to the most important question on which we are getting a lot of queries, that how to be a member of DDS Working Committee. So let me inform you that just after this event ends, we will be opening the applications for the working committee. The Google form for the same will be made active where you can apply. Now you need to understand that being a first year student, you will be eligible to apply for the post of working committee member only. And after the screening process, which includes shortlisting of your CV and personal interview, if you get selected, you will be inducted officially as a DDS working committee member. And only in your second year, on the basis of your performance, of course, your appraisal report, you will be upgraded to the executive committee. Now, executive committee member means a post of leadership where you would be having the independence to directly take calls or decisions regarding the events and its organization. Now, the possible question which will come to your mind is that what would be the role and responsibility of you as a working committee member? See, first thing you need to understand that it's an open society. So everyone in this college can participate in the debates. Even if you are a working committee member, you can participate in the competitions. As a working committee member, your role would be more into organizing of event. So you will be involved into the planning and conceptualization of event, from selection of the topic of discussion to inviting guests, to conducting the event. If it's a physical event, to arrange for the sponsorship, to make the arrangements, everything comes under our ambit. Our job is to ensure that there is a smooth conduction of whole event. Currently, the Student Executive Committee comprises of convener, that is myself, co-conveners, 2 co-conveners, and 11 executive members. So we have Shubhangi Jha and Toshita Joshi as co-conveners. Both of them have already interacted with you. So if in case you have any doubt regarding DDS, you have how to participate in this event, how to be a member of society, regarding working committee applications, you can contact me or any of the co-conveners or executive members, or you can also mail your query to our official email ID, and we will be definitely reply you as soon as possible. Our email ID you can easily find on the websites also. Now, also at faculty level, apart from Seema ma'am, we have 4 other teacher members: Dr. Aati Aneja, Dr. Sujit Kunan, Ms. Anumiha Mishra, and Mr. Akashdeep Nagal. We have a broad faculty presence basically in DDS. We also have an advisory committee comprising of our noted alumni members. Right now, Mr. Vijay Pujari and Kajal Sonkar are on board for their guidance. They are the former student conveners. Ria, now you can switch off the PPT. Yeah. Now, quickly covering one or two points which answer all your doubts. Number one, Google Forms will be made active just after this event, and it will remain there till 25th midnight. So the deadline is 11:59 p.m. 25th January. In the Google form, you need to answer a few questions and upload your CV in Word or PDF format. If you are shortlisted, you will be notified and called for a personal interview. Now, the second question which might come is that on what basis you will be assessed. So I believe it will be evaluated more on your level of commitment, your dedication to contribute and work for the society. Third question can be that whether language is a barrier in the process or not. So answer is no. Both English and Hindi medium students are encouraged to participate in the event. Okay, so the next question can be that whether you are allowed to join more than one society or not. So many students have this question. So answer is that technically, yes, rule says that you cannot be an executive member of two societies at a given point of time. So in your first year, you may join and explore different societies, though I believe that the creative freedom which one can get here is not available in other cases. Now, one more important question is that how to get into the student editorial board. So we have talked about CSLR. So after the DDS working committee induction process gets over, soon after we will be opening applications for the student editorial board. Here you can apply, and if you get selected, you will be working at a post of associate editor. And in the next year, on the basis of your performance, it might possible that you are upgraded as co-editor. So this is how you become the part of editorial board. And apart from this, also every year, of course, on the basis of performance, some two to three students from the DDS working committee are selected and directly upgraded to the editorial board. For example, this year, one of the executive member and second year student, Shishir Rai, he was directly appointed to the editorial board as co-editor on the basis of his, of course, exceptional performance. So yes, you being a member of working committee also, there is a chance that you might become a member of editorial board of journal as well. But that completely depends on the situation, your hard work and your performance. So if you're interested in the editorial board, just be in touch, follow us on social media handles and join our WhatsApp groups. We will be putting out all the information there. Okay, so I think most of the information we have already covered. One more thing, because of a lot of requests that we are getting, we have opened the applications of DDS Working Committee for not just for first year, but for all the CLCNs. So if you are willing to join, second years also, they can apply. Amish sir will be joining us in a minute or two. So I believe if you have any query, any doubt, you may ask it here or personally contact the team. DDS, or you can mail or WhatsApp also.
Good evening to all of you guys. So we've got, I believe you're already done with the orientation ceremony.
Yes, sir.
And
a very good evening, sir. We are really grateful, sir, that you took time from your busy schedule and joined us here. With your permission, sir, I would like to start the event and introduce you first with the students. I know everyone knows you. There's no need of introduction, but still, if you give us permission.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
Before this, a small announcement to all the students. Kindly put your microphones on mute. If you have any query, have little patience and I know you all must be excited to talk to Amish sir, but for the time being, please put your questions and queries in the comment section or the chat box. During the end of the session, we will surely taking all the queries. Let's start. Once again, good evening to one and all who have joined us here, all our viewers who are watching us live on YouTube channel or Facebook page. On behalf of DDS and Campus Law Center, I extend a very warm welcome. Today we have with us Mr. Amish Aggarwala, a Supreme Court advocate and a very popular face on YouTube and in the legal field. He has more than 8 years, almost 9 years of vast experience in providing legal consultancy and advisory services. He was a former associate with Seema, with Senior Special Public Prosecutor, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, and then he has been the Central Government Counsel and Dispute Lawyer at Supreme Court of India. Today, he's going to speak on the topic Art of Oral Advocacy, a topic which is very pertinent to all of us. This art of oral advocacy comes with a lot of experience and practice. And I'm sure today we all would be getting a lot of important insights from the topic from the sir himself. Thank you so much, sir. I yield the floor to you now.
Thank you so much, madam, for the very, very warm, very kind introduction. First and foremost, it is the Debate and Discussion Society which has invited me to speak today. And I find it most ironical. You'll find out why. Someone who, when he tried for the debating society of his law school. It's one thing, and that is why perhaps what I'm going to say, what I'm going to be talking about, I will get to the art of advocacy part, but because all of you who are here, who are starting out and going to begin this journey, or maybe you are somewhere in the middle, you have doubts about your capability, your place in the world, let me share with you my story of how I walked into the debating society tryouts. I sat there in the back and I did not even get up and give it a shot. I was one of those law students who was horribly afraid of standing in front of a group of people and speaking about anything at all. And this was not the case just in law school. Even in high school, I remember, again, I always had it inside of me to try and give an attempt to debating, to being an orator. And even in high school, I remember there were about 7 applications for a debating society of 5 people from our classroom of about 50 people. And I was one of the 2 people who were not selected. In college, I feel partly somewhere because of my failed attempt in high school, I did not even try. What is really funny though, is that one of my batchmates who did give it an attempt stood up there with utmost confidence when he was asked to talk about the topic of euthanasia. He confused it in our first year of law school. He confused it with capital punishment and went drawling on for about 5 minutes about why capital punishment is bad and should be reconsidered. But everywhere he used the term euthanasia. I knew the meaning of euthanasia. I kept laughing in the back. Yet, despite seeing the blunder committed by this friend of mine, who, by the way, now is in a very, very senior position in one of the top 3 law firms in this country, I stood there, I tried to get up, but I still could not do it. Yet, I did get my opportunity about 2 or 3 years later, when I finally summoned the courage to try out during the moot court days. And at that point of time, I found a fair bit of success where I was able to convince the faculty to send me to events along with my peers. And even at the moot court competitions themselves, I made endeavors and on a couple of occasions made some decent progress as well. Even after that, when I went into practice, into advocacy, for several years, I still grappled with fear at the idea of public speaking. And perhaps this is the little distinction between debating and advocacy, where in the art of advocacy, the only people you need to focus on is the judge sitting in front of you and the opponent who is also trying to make his submissions, cut you off, and preventing you from cutting him off. People watch in the back, but because your back is turned to them on most occasions, you will be unfazed by what is transpiring behind your back. However, when you go for debates, you are going to be facing on one hand your opponent and on the other hand the entire crowd, which you need to make a compelling case in front of as well. So for several years, I still grappled with the idea. And then when I was invited on a couple of occasions to give presentations, to talk about the things that I had learned in the few years of my practice, with a lot of effort, with a lot of summoning of courage on my part. I was able to go stutter, stammer, and barely make my way through those presentations, those talks. I am not sure whether today, in the past 2 years of not having addressed any gathering in the physical space, I can still count myself as one of those people who can stand and deliver a small speech without my knees buckling. Because for the past 2 years, all these speeches have been delivered online as well. But just before the pandemic, the lockdown started, on a bunch of occasions, I did stand there and I could feel relatively that the knees weren't buckling so much. So I am hoping that just like riding a bicycle, I can get back to it when the occasion rises in the near future, hopefully. The reason why I took out this much time to give you a little bit of an background into how I dealt with it was because I personally, I don't know how many of you will relate to it, but I am sure there will be few of you who are in this, this Google Meet, who are watching us on YouTube perhaps, or who might watch a recording of this later. There will be a few of you at the very least who do not have the confidence in themselves to say that I can get up and I can address a gathering. That fear can be crippling, but I am here to tell you it is never too late. You may be in your final year of law school, you may have graduated. There will be a time if you keep at it, if you just practice a little, and if you also lower your own standards of to what extent you think you need to perform, you will be able to stand up and deliver, at least to, if no one else's satisfaction, at least to your own satisfaction. You will be able to deliver, and be that kind of person who stands in front of maybe the judge and the opponent, or maybe in front of a crowd, and who is able to make an impact. Now, coming to the art of advocacy, a couple of things that I have on many occasions talked about. This is something that I feel these are a few points that hopefully will, and keep in mind though, we are here, the debating society, but I have been invited to talk about the art of oral advocacy. I have already mentioned I have not had much of an experience when it comes to debates. So I am going to be talking about advocacy, the art of addressing a judge, and also trying to counter the opponent. And I feel that to a great extent, there is a lot of overlap, which is there anyways. So you will definitely have a few takeaways, even if you're preparing for debating in the near future. And once you are done and dusted with college life, when you go into the practice of law, and if you go into litigation, whatever you have practiced over here and learned over here are skills which will easily be transferred over into advocacy. One of the most important things that I feel everyone should understand and hammer into their heads about advocacy is that content always trumps eloquence. When I was in law school, I think I was in perhaps my 3rd or my 4th year of law school, I was interning with an advocate on record at that point of time. One of the juniors of that advocate on record was this lady who I looked up to with utmost reverence. She was very, very eloquent. She was educated from a good college, from a good school, from a good college. She was one of those people who I used to think, wow, I mean, if I could speak like her, if I could, keep my head held up high like her, I'm sure I would have made it. Yet, when I saw her argue a matter for the first time before the Supreme Court itself, during that internship, I realized this lady suffered the same flaws that I did for a long, long time. That is, when you are eloquent, when you are well versed with the English language, when your grammar, your vocabulary, everything is on point. Often, and especially so because of lack of preparation of the actual meat of the matter, the contents of your file, the contents of the law, the facts which are there, you tend to stumble, stutter, stammer, and then all that glory that you built up in anyone's head and the person in front of you, all of that is lost. Even recently, I have a lot of collaborations with a lot of lawyers. One such lawyer I spent a lot of time with. This lawyer, in conversations with me as well as with other colleagues, always used to talk about his desire to be this eloquent orator, this effective, powerful advocate standing before the bench and making strong, thundering submissions. His English was, there was nothing lacking there. He knew the art and the craft of speaking. However, I believe he never really focused on the art of advocacy. Despite having gone to a very like a premier law school, despite having good training, despite having had the best of internships, one mistake that he made, which I believe I also made for the majority of years of my law school, was that we would focus on the manner, the thunder. We would be in awe of these people. But what we would not realize is the little nuances that were being played out in the court. And that is why I have come to the conclusion that it is far better to be thorough with your facts and with your law, rather than hoping to be eloquent and sway the judge, because that does not happen. You could stutter, stammer, use English for that matter. What needs to be the focus is the content of your submission. If what you have to say is relevant, you will win. Now, this is a line that I read somewhere several years ago in an interview of some senior advocate somewhere. So I would love to give credit, but I don't remember where I read this several years ago. This senior advocate said that if you were to be asked what amount of preparation is required to address arguments before a court, a general rule of thumb is, if you have to argue for 1 minute before the court, you must be preparing for at least an hour. 1 minute of submission, 1 hour of preparation. And I resonated quite a bit with that statement of that senior advocate. And this is what I would propose to you as well. Again, we circle back to the same point. The preparation is key. If you're able to focus on the facts, the law, and other sorts of preparation as well, you could take down the best of the best, the highest paid advocates in this country as well. I have no doubt about it. Now, there are certain other nuances that you must learn. And this is a curse which is imposed upon lawyers across this country for no reason, at least which I find palpable. Almost every single court has its own way of functioning. And when you start practicing before a certain court, a certain forum, you get comfortable with how things work with that particular court. But when you move on to another court, you will realize that whatever you were getting comfortable with, whatever you started thinking is the norm which should be followed. It is not a norm or a rule or a regulation of this particular court, but this is a generally widely accepted practice that must be followed by all courts around. When you go to other courts, you realize that this is not the case. Every court, complex, every court at different hierarchies have a very, very different system of how they work. And you would be at a huge disadvantage if you do not understand how that system works. If you try to bring in your methods, your ways of advocacy of whatever you have done in the past, or in the court complex, or the court, the district court, the high court, supreme court, tribunal, wherever it is you practice, if you try to bring that to the other court, you will suffer the consequences. I remember it was about a few months into my practice that I was appearing quite frequently before the Delhi High Court. And there was a certain belligerence that advocates had to and still have to practice when it comes to addressing arguments before most of the judges of the High Court. To a certain extent, quite similar to how it happens before the district courts. If you do not butt in, if you do not try to, butt in your submissions, despite the other party making their submissions, or maybe the judge is doing something else, there is a very good chance that the judge will walk all over you and you will not get to make your submission. You need to push through. But when I got my first opportunity to argue a matter before the Supreme Court of India, about 3 or 4 months, about 50 odd appearances before the Delhi High Court, when I went to argue my first matter before the Supreme Court of India, I tried that same butt-in, tried to cut down the other person, and was immediately shot down by the division bench. And the senior judge on that bench said to me, "Young man, let him finish, you zip up, you sit down." And I had to face that embarrassment and I had to sit down. But now the question arises, what can you do if you have to address arguments before an unfamiliar bench? This also, in a certain way, forms part of the art of advocacy. If you have to address your arguments, treat it like a professional sports person. Go and rewatch matches of your opponent and the field, the territory, how these things happen. There is ample time, especially when you are young, when you have to address arguments before a particular bench, you will have a lot of time to prepare. Spend some of that time going and sitting before that same bench before which you're supposed to argue your matter tomorrow, next week, or next month. So go and sit there today and observe how the bench deals with submissions. Observe how things are being argued, how it is being received by the bench. Because as I earlier said, it is a curse, but we have to bear it and walk with it, which is that we must mold ourselves, our submissions, even our facts and our law to suit the intellect as well as the emotion of the judge sitting in front of us. There are a couple of other aspects. There is also the constraints of time, energy, and resources as well. What I mean by this, I would be able to perhaps explain better with an illustration. When I was working with a senior special public prosecutor for this department, I was given the responsibility, and I'm very grateful for it, the responsibility of arguing about anywhere from 3 to 10 matters every single day before the Delhi High Court. And often I used to go to different district courts as well. I used to travel all over the place to make my submissions. But on most days, my duty was at the Delhi High Court, rushing from court to court. Me, an individual advocate with a few months of experience at the bar, trying to, and I started from day one. So every single day was a struggle. I was running around. But one interesting thing is that because I had to argue so many matters, I could not put in the kind of preparation that ideally I would want to as a young advocate. Because for the smallest of things, the opponent can steal away from you relief that otherwise they would not have gotten if you knew your craft, or if you knew about the law, or about how facts are interpreted by the court in a certain way at a certain point of time. What happened was then that I had to force myself to absorb huge amounts of data in a very short amount of time. And of course, because of that, because of the fact that I was absorbing huge amounts of data in a very short span of time, I had to cover large lengths and breadths of every subject matter instead of trying to go deep into any one subject, which was understandable. My boss was happy because I was able to deal with all of these matters. No government council expects perfection. Especially majority of the matters, there are some special circumstances for which we had to kind of make that exception. But on most days, my art of advocacy was also molded in a certain way to go through a lot of files, prepare a lot of matters, and prepare myself to argue a number of matters every single day. But when I went independent, I had a lot of free time on my hands. I barely had, especially in the first few months of going independent, I had maybe 3 or 4 hearings in a month. And sometimes the whole calendar was completely empty. And it was on those occasions that I found myself with a lot of time to prepare for each and every single matter. And in those times, I was able to very effectively go very, very deep. But at the same time, what I realized was that when I have understood so much about the subject, to condense all of that information pertaining to the case into a small capsule that I can then feed the honorable court is also something that I struggled with for a long amount of time. And I feel that till date, one of the biggest challenges for any advocate is to condense large amounts of data, hack at it, and make it as concise and as powerful as it can be. And I realized that this is the biggest sticking point that most junior advocates will also struggle with, because of the fact that whenever I have my colleagues who work with me, whenever I, in a way, brief them about what they have to argue, when they have to go and argue matters in courts, I always see that they are very, very thorough with the file, having spent anywhere from 5 to 50 hours preparing that file over a period of 1, 2, 3, 4 days. But a big concern with each and every single one of the younger, less experienced colleagues that I have had is the difficulty with picking and choosing exactly what to say to the judge first, what to say to the judge next, what to say last, and what to keep out entirely from the view of the judge when it comes to your submissions. And that is why on a lot of occasions, especially when they're starting out, I would practice with my colleagues and I would ask them to tell me, to assume that I am the judge, and when the matter comes up, to make their submissions before me the way they would before the judge. And every single time, there will always be, especially in the first few occasions, there will be a lot of hesitation. There will be a lot of resistance, and this is the same hesitation and resistance that you will find when you are standing before the judge. But at least when they've practiced it out in front of the fake judge for a couple of occasions, a little bit of course correction has been done again by the fake judge, I have found that they have been far more effective in making their submissions. So one of the most important things that I feel you guys could take away from this is that you need to put in the effort of understanding your facts and your law of your file. Second is to understand the judge, and third is to practice to such an extent that you can take on whatever is coming to you. And another aspect to this is, if you want to learn advocacy as soon as possible, the best thing that you could do is to find clients of your own. But there are certain moral dilemmas that one faces. or at least I faced when I was very young, and through maybe say family members or through friends, and through a lot of luck as well, I would come across paying clients who would pay me to research for them, draft for them, file for them, and then go argue matters for them. But so you learn a lot when you are arguing your own matters. But the moral dilemma that I used to suffer, and to a huge extent, some people might suffer, is that you are learning at the cost of your client. The client will suffer in one way or the other, be it on the merits of the case or your procedural weakness. But this will be the biggest lesson for you. If you want to save on your moral, save yourself on your moral dilemmas, and also have a little bit of, and also accelerate that learning process, it's nothing better than to join a senior who allows you to argue matters. And if you don't have any such situation like that, I would recommend gather a bunch of friends and start practicing with each other. And trust me, it might look a little ridiculous, but I have seen the power of masterminds, be it in the profession of law or be it in any other sphere of life. A couple of you people getting together, having a similar goal, of course, and practicing towards that goal and giving each other feedback. And on a lot of occasions, more importantly, giving each other encouragement. If you're able to do that, even if you have no clients of your own, you have no seniors right now, you have nothing with you, you can still improve yourself and you can be ready for the day that you can have your senior and be ready for the day that you have your clients. There are many more things that I had made notes about, but I don't really want to get into them right now, especially because this was about the art of advocacy. I personally believe there are many other things which people should also be learning about, understanding about when it comes to being an advocate, because the art of advocacy is a small portion of it. But today we limit ourselves to the art of advocacy, and perhaps we take a few questions, if that is possible right now, although the half an hour mark has already been crossed.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a very informative and insightful session. You have mentioned that content, knowledge of law, or how thoroughly one has gone through the case. It's something which surely has more weightage as compared to the fluence and eloquence of the speaking. And I think this is something which would definitely be motivating, a ray of hope for many students out here who are nervous due to lack of good English or good public speaking skills. And now, with your permission, we'll start with the question and answer session. We have some questions in the chat box, sir. So first question is by Adarsh Kumar. Adarsh, if you are there in the meeting, kindly unmute yourself and you can ask your question directly to the sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vandana. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Adarsh.
Sir, my question is, how should one overcome his or her anxiety or nervousness that we face during oral arguments in moot courts or when we enter into litigation in courts of law?
Adarsh, for the longest time, I did not have an answer to this. There are many techniques suggested by renowned public speakers, past and present, all over the world. None of those techniques really worked for me. One thing that worked for me, which I came up with a couple of years ago, and as absurd as it sounds, it worked wonderfully for me. And I believe it worked for me personally because I had my own sets of challenges and insecurities. The first time that I feel that I was able to effectively stand before a crowd and deliver a speech, I believe is the same mindset, not even technique, but the mindset that if I would have had it on earlier occasions, maybe during my mooting days, I would not have suffered through so much of anxiety and suffering. First and foremost, of course, it goes without saying, if you are not prepared on your content, you will definitely feel that anxiety, and rightly so. But if you are already prepared, you have put in the work, the research, the notes, you've stood in front of the mirror and you've practiced it on a bunch of occasions. one thing I would definitely recommend is do go out and listen to all the top orators out there through their books, their videos, everything that they've got. One personal little, mindset hack that I had, which I would share with all of you, is realizing that it only happens in maybe, in movies and in high schools, because high school people, they are mean, they're very, very mean. It does happen that you could be booed off the stage, right? But when you're in law school, when you're in college, when you're in any event, no matter, or even before a judge, be it an actual judge or be it a moot court judge, it doesn't matter. None of them is going to call you out, condescend you in any way whatsoever for your lack of eloquence when it comes to making your submissions. Take a deep breath and say what you want to say, and realize that the person in front of you is not God, is not superior. Their opinion of you does not in any way affect your life or your sense of self-worth whatsoever. When I realized this, when I overemphasized this in my own mind, I was able to a great extent, understand and humanize the person sitting in front of me, in front of whom I was making my arguments or with whom I was having my discussion, be it an individual or be it a group. And that helped me quite a bit, Adarsh. But apart from that, this was one little hack that me, with my own insecurities, I faced. If you feel that there is anxiety, there are several authors. There is Dale Carnegie, of course. One thing that I must mention, Dale Carnegie, I believe I read one of his books. I've read a couple of his books. I read them when I was very, very young, I think 10, 11, 12. And on a lot of occasions, you have people who do not read books like these, who tell you that these books are useless. Let me tell you, it all comes back together in the end. And you realize whatever you have gone through in books like these, or videos, or maybe attending events or seminars or whatever it is, it all comes full circle, and you are able to realize that you became a better person because of this. I guess that's all I have to say about this particular thing.
Thank you, sir. So next question is by Mr. Farooq Sefi. If you are there, you can ask your question, Farooq.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, sir. My question is that I have heard from my seniors and friends that law is a profession of patience and hard work. It becomes more tough when you are a first generation lawyer and you also come from an uneducated background. So sir, from where one should go for a guidance and how to keep yourself motivated during the journey of a law?
Farooq bhai, guidance you go and seek, and you take it wherever you can. I have taken guidance from books as a child, from videos when they became more accessible, from paid courses, from free courses. I have sought out mentors. I've reached out to people who I thought were doing a good job, and I asked them if I can be an apprentice under them. Majority of them said no. A few of them said yes. That made all the difference. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're all mediums. What matters is that there are people who are far better than you, who are already where you are, who are already at the level that you wish to be. And this model has worked for centuries, and it never fails. One of the fastest ways to grow and become good at what you want to get good at in your situation, the profession of law, I'm assuming you mean litigation, or even otherwise, if there's any other area of law that you want to get good at, that you want to succeed at, I feel the best way is to find people who can teach you, who can mentor you, and as a necessary extension to this, also try to, when you say I want to learn, I see this happen ever so often, and I realize the flaws in my own applications and my emails and my message requests to people several years ago, when I used to be seeking out mentors very, very actively all the time. I always used to tell them that this is what I want. That is, these are the ABC things that I want. I want you to teach me. I want to learn this. I want to get this. I want to be this. I never ever talked about what I could offer to them. What can I do for you? This is how I can help you. These are the things that I can do for you. So one aspect is where to go. The answer is clear. You go everywhere. You try your best everywhere you can. Another thing to keep in mind is try to offer something to the person that you are seeking out so that they also have a little bit of an investment in teaching you what they know as well. Keeping yourself motivated, Farooq bhai, I say this. If you're not motivated, then just leave. Because law, as you yourself said, is a very, very hard profession. And sometimes in life, you don't want to stick around the hard things if they are not worth it. If they are worth it, the motivation remains. If they are not worth it, you might as well go do something that you enjoy more, perhaps, or anything in life. I've seen people, there are a lot of people who say, I want to do that and I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to. I say, just leave. Because there are, for every person who finds their calling in law after several decades and says, now I know for a fact that I want to be an advocate for the rest of my life and I want to go to courts and argue my matters. For every such one person, there is always another person who studied and prepared and attempted to become an advocate, maybe became an advocate, practiced for a little while, and then left the profession as well. So rather than idealizing this image that I must be despite the motivation, I say it is better that you go find something that you are passionate about. Now, if say, for example, we are talking about short-term motivation, where, you need to push through certain projects, certain deliverables, certain bad phases of your life. Keeping the motivation up to perform during those moments where you would otherwise regret not having performed them, the best way to go about it is to form associations with like-minded individuals. If you have friends who are on the same journey as you, perhaps have the same trials and tribulations as you do, who are going through the same difficulties that you do, when you discuss with each other and maybe one person cracks the answer to a particular situation and he talks about it with the rest of you, and then you follow suit, and then perhaps another person finds another answer. And even if you don't, you're running around, you're trying to make things happen, having a group of like-minded individuals really helps you push through the most difficult phases of anything in life, and this particular thing as well. I hope that answers your question, Farooq.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Definitely, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So next 2 to 3 questions are somewhat similar. So Rahul has asked about what should be the right time to do an internship. Similar question was asked by Ragini Kapoor. Ragini, you are there. If in the meeting, you can ask your question.
Thank you, Vandana. Good evening, sir. So, sir, I wanted to ask, right now we all are so fresh to the field. And while looking out for internships, we believe that let's go directly to the Supreme Court or, intern with the fanciest lawyers. But what do you suggest? What's a better option if I actually want to practice eventually? Should I actually start from the grassroots level, make my basics clear? What is the correct path?
Right. Ragini, it's a great question. Hundreds of people have asked me this question, and I have had varied answers over the years. But the fact of the matter is that ultimately you want to get a fair idea of everything under the sun for the first few years as a law student, and even in your practice days as well. You do not want to say that I only do this or I only do that. And now to the question, where should I start? I say start where you can. Because if I put myself in the shoes of the average law student right now, maybe most of you who are sitting and watching this, it is not that you have dozens of opportunities and dozens of offer letters from firms, senior lawyers, and advocates in your hand. Often the answer is just to start. Don't wait for the next better thing to come your way. Just start right now, start as soon as you can, and also leave the moment you feel either uncomfortable, you feel unappreciated, or you find something better. The moment any of these things happen, leave. Because the way I look at it, the faster you move when it comes to applying for internships, selecting among the internships that you have gotten through, performing there, learning, getting the most out of that place that you can. And when you realize that you've learned enough, that you don't need to learn more, you can always jump ship to go to another place. And let me tell you this, try to do as many different internships as you can. Different places, different institutions, different areas of law. On a lot of occasions, people say that, I want to, say for example, Ragini says, I know that I want to end up practicing litigation eventually. To Ragini, I would say that knowing that you want to do litigation, it's very counterintuitive, but knowing that you want to do litigation eventually, I would implore you to actually go and try to actively avoid litigation for as long as possible during your law school internship days. Why? Because once you make up your mind about one thing, I would say that you try to do everything else very, very quickly. And I don't mean that don't go for litigation internships at all. That would be a huge damper on your possibilities of future early quick success. But I would say all the other good glorious avenues which could possibly be there, such as, for example, corporate law, government jobs, internships, being a judge, being a law officer in a company. All of these things, get a very, very quick idea of how these places are like in in maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 month internships. Right? Because I'll confess to you that one of my biggest regrets of law school is not having interned with any decent, good tier 1 corporate law firm. I did a few internships with mostly litigation focused law firms when I did do internships with any law firms, because I also, just like Ragini, had it in my head that I am going to be practicing law, I am going to be a litigating lawyer. But then when my final year rolled around, I realized that before I step into litigation, perhaps it would make more sense for me to understand how a large institution works, which I was not able to get through in my last final few months of law school days, which I sorely regret. If I would have planned better, prepared a little, strategized a little, I would have definitely scored a few of these internships, and I could have used, one, the knowledge that I gained over there, two, the friendships that I forged over there, to a huge advantage. And I must confess, to this date, I struggle with trying to build a firm kind of a setup for myself and for my team, because I am always, I am just waddling about in the dark. I have no clue of what I'm doing. I have always been an advocate. I have always been the person who takes the brief, goes to court, and argues his matter. But when I am trying to consolidate the resources of the people, the infrastructure and everything around me, I find myself at a massive disadvantage. So learn from my mistake. And I would say, if you know that you have to practice litigation, definitely go in and try all other spheres of law. Maybe avoid the NGOs, because I feel that there's not much learning done over there. If it's your altruism that calls you to do it, go for it. But apart from that, a lot of people say, "Sir, when do I start?" The answer is you start yesterday. And if you can't start, if you can't do that, you start today. And if you can't do that, you start tomorrow. Start applying to as many places as you can. If you get through to multiple places, apologize to the other places and just go for the best place that you like. If you don't like it over there, or or you feel that your self-respect is hit over there, maybe, or maybe you've learned whatever you had to learn in a short span of time, which I would say is the best possible thing, you move out to the other ones. That's what I would say you should like approach your whole career of internships.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next question is by Shrutika Chopra. Shrutika, you can join in.
Thank you, Vandana. Good evening, sir. Firstly, thank you so much for the insight you've offered us so far. My question is for people who are budding lawyers and do not come from a legal background. Like I'm a first generation law student. So for us, as you mentioned while answering Farooq, that there are certain characteristics that even a student would have to offer to lawyers in order to be hired by them. It's not like you have to also market yourself that I can do this for you. So, sir, it would be really helpful if you can elaborate on some of those characteristics that learned counsel such as you would like to find in interns for yourself. Thank you.
That's a great question, Shrutika. I honestly, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it. But what I would say is that if you talk about internships, law students being of some use to lawyers, one aspect is just, the pitch. Whenever I read and I get a lot of, internship email requests, there's a huge difference between people who I know. And when I read the email itself, the body of the email, I know for a fact, I can figure out who, like, this person has actually done a few internships, not because they say that they have done these internships, but because the way they write, they are far more, it's far more likely to get an internship rather, compared to these other people. But if you were to talk about the actual skills, so again, this is something that I read quite a while back, and it just comes back to my mind. When you are young, you don't have much else to offer. What you can offer is one, integrity, which, as lame as it sounds, is something that majority of professionals with a few years of experience under their belt, they do not find it in the younger, less experienced people that they are working with. One is integrity, the other is consistency. If you can have integrity, to be honest to your work, to be honest with your senior, to be honest with yourself about the kind of work that you're putting in, the areas where you lack. And another, that's a huge thing. Another thing is persistence. As I mentioned, there are a lot of people who can do exceptional work, and I've seen, but I would say I would rather choose a person who is persistent with their efforts, who might not be as exceptional a lawyer as somebody else, but at least if they are persistent, I would take them over any person who is a fantastic lawyer, but then is not consistent and not persistent. And what do I mean by that? If you are, and this is something that I myself am guilty of, you go to an internship, you try to leave early, you try to come a little late, and it's not that you try, it just happens. You take some off because a friend has a birthday and a family member got into this XYZ trouble. But the people that I feel that I have worked with, who have succeeded the most in terms of finding exceptional internships, finding exceptional job offers, even, right? And also scoring clients. It's a loop of either success or a loop of constant failures. If you're young, you might not have much. The school that you went to will dictate a lot of, to a huge extent, it will dictate what kind of intellect you have. But I am testament to the fact that academic ability is not paramount. I used to be in the bottom 10 percentile of my class every single year, year after year. And after enrolling at the bar, just because I had no other option, because I had a tough senior, I had tough circumstances where I was forced through pain and suffering of going through courts, being ridiculed by the senior, by the judge, by the opposing counsel, and by the client. Everywhere I had to, pick up the metal and perform and get to, if I can blow my own trumpet to a nice little level and carve out a little nest for myself. I was only able to do it when I built up consistency, persistence. I could not, and I used to do that way back. I remember, and all of us are guilty of it at some level or the other. You're not well, you switch off your phone, you go to sleep, you wake up late, there are all sorts of these things. But if you can avoid it, you can have the skills to, not skills, you will be loved by your seniors, you will be compensated handsomely by your seniors, and in the future, if you can keep it up, you will succeed. Intellectual capabilities, do some courses, attend your classes, go through academic rigors, be a top performer. All of that is fine, but all of that fluctuates. And I personally believe all of that is not so relevant. What matters the most, what will, after which everything else will by itself follow, is integrity and consistency. I know there are more abstract concepts, and maybe you were looking for certain things that you could have, but then again, this is not one of those situations where you wave a wand, you have those abilities, and suddenly from being an unemployed intern or a stipendless intern, you suddenly turn into a miracle creature who is suddenly, the senior will come and say, all right, we are hiring you at 50,000 a month. That is not going to happen. The most important skill, and in fact, I've talked about it, if you're talking about getting an internship, I believe that one of the most important things you can do, I've had these discussions with a bunch of people. They say, I want to have a paid internship. I want to earn while I'm learning. And of course, you're entitled to that. But you have to look at the market economics as well. In a profession, so if you go to, say, maybe, data analysis, I've heard stories, people in their internships itself, they get very, very, very handsome stipends. You're in the practice of law, even if you are exceptional for the, if you are not an asset to the institution or the individual that you're working with, you will not be paid anything, because there are far many more takers for the opportunity than the number of opportunities that are out there. Yet, this is something that I do with a few of my interns, and I know majority of the lawyers who are doing decently well for themselves, they pay their interns, law students as well, and they pay quite handsomely, but only to those, and the key word here is indispensable, only to those who are indispensable to the institution / individual. If you can be an indispensable asset, if you can do things for which your senior will constantly depend upon, the moment you are confident in your ability that you will be, you are an inalienable asset to the place, you can command, and you will again command the market price. If you are so good that if you leave, your senior will suffer a loss of, say, maybe 1 or 2 lakh rupees. If you demand, say, 50,000 or 60,000, your senior will be very happy to pay you that amount. And if that senior is not happy paying that amount, the kind of knowledge that you have, the kind of person that you are, the confidence with which you walk, you talk, You look into the eyes of the other person when you are talking about something. When you are that capable, you will suddenly find that a lot of doors have opened up all of a sudden. And of course, if you fall into this trap, this nonsense that, and I'll be blunt with my words right now, because I believe this whole socialist nonsense of, oh, why do we not get paid? Oh, why do I not get? It's like me saying, oh, I want to go and play in the NBA. Why don't you 7 feet 5 inch, people make space and allow this 6 feet tall, extremely obese man into the NBA and give him a shot as well? That is not going to happen. If you want it bad enough, you need to put in the effort. You need to outperform everyone around you so that you can, take your place among the top performers. The problem that I have with this whole socialist system of, oh, you must mandate pay to interns, nobody ever thinks about it. There are people, and I would have been one of them, if I would have said, if someone would have said that this senior must pay Amish Aggarwal the moment he is enrolled and working with this senior a minimum sum of, say, maybe, what would be fair? Something like, back in 2013 when I enrolled at the bar, so say a sum of 30,000 rupees must mandatorily be paid by this senior to Amish Aggarwal. If he hires Amish Aggarwal started out at a salary of 10,000 rupees. If the law would mandate that I would have to work, I would be paid a minimum of 30,000, this minimum wage, my employer would not have hired me. And this is the difficulty. My employer, who was also, for fair disclosure, a lot of people also do know this, was my own uncle. But he was as strict with me and as impartial to me as anybody else. If nothing else, I was held to a higher standard. I started out at 10,000. I worked just a month or two later, it was bumped up to 15,000. I was able to, just a few months later, because of the work I was able to do, I was able to command a salary of double that, a few months later, double that as well. Only because of the fact that I had taken up the amount of responsibility with this particular senior that no one else could do. And if the senior tried to replace me at any point of time, he would have had to spend far more than what I was costing him at that point of time. So I would say, do not get hung up on this crap that seniors don't pay. Seniors will never pay if the market will allow them not to pay. But if you bring in this minimum wage bullshit, and I know I use this word, but I use this with utmost circumspection. This bullshit, if it is allowed to continue, there will be a lot of people, far more people, who will not get an opportunity, because the moment you want to enroll you want to work as an associate with an advocate, or you want to work as an intern with somebody, you will have to face this difficulty, because if you do not meet the minimum threshold, the minimum criteria, nobody will hire you. Instead, what I did myself on other occasions as well, after I went independent as well, offer to work for free. Offer your heart and your soul and your sworn fealty to the senior, to the institution. Work there for a couple of months, make yourself an indispensable part of that organization. And when you feel that you are an indispensable part, you command what you feel, you command what you feel your senior will lose if you leave that organization. And lo and behold, as a law student as well, you could be making a lot of money. I have a friend he was in his first year of MBA in human resources way back in the year 2011. His entire batch got, the best offer they got was about 50,000 rupees a month. Mid-tier management school. This man, he started his internship at the age of 18. He was working and he kept bumping it up from 0 to 5,000 to 20,000 to 50,000. And over a period of about 4 or 5 years through graduation and then his masters, when his colleagues were the best package that his colleagues were getting was about 50,000 a month. This guy was at that point of time raking in 2.5 lakhs a month as an employee with a startup. And then he quit that to venture onto far bigger endeavors, and right now is one of the most successful entrepreneurs that I know. I went into a little bit of a rant, and this is something that I feel very, very strongly about, because I often see people make this mistake of lamenting the situation rather than figuring out how to succeed in whatever venture they are putting in their efforts with. If you can take away anything, the most important lesson that you can take, all of you, is apart from the art of advocacy, apart from, if you're talking about internships, if you're talking about a career in law, or for that matter, anywhere else, you can look at your circumstances, your situation, your family problems, your girlfriend, boyfriend problems, your financial situation. You can look at world economics, you can look at the pandemic, you can look at anything. And you can either look at it from the lens of everything is, gone to shambles. A person, B person, and C person are the ones to blame for it, and this entitles me to feel sorry for myself. Or you can look at it from the lens of wherever there is any change in circumstances in the world, in my society, wherever it is, there is always opportunity for you to go and grasp significant gains for yourself. I guess that's all I want to say for it. I'm sorry if I went a little overboard with whatever I talked about.
So we are running a little short of time, so we would just take one more question and we can conclude the session then. So this question is by Shashank Shekhar. Shashank, if you want to ask the question to sir directly, you can join in.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. How does one prepare the draft? How does one do the research work before preparing the draft of a case? If you could answer that. Thank you.
Hanji, that's a great question, Shashank. Because not many people ask it. It's a very simple, small question, but it's a very, very, very important one. And I'm glad you asked this, because this is one thing that I feel, a lot of good advocates do, but it's not really kind of talked about in terms of imparting this little hack to the junior colleagues out there. A lot of people, what they do is they get cracking on the drafting of whatever they are doing, based only on the facts which are being given to them. These are the facts. This is how you proceed. And ultimately, once you are done with the draft of all of the facts that you are aware of, then you go look up the law, and whatever law exists to suit your particular pleading, you put that in the final stages of your draft. I believe that is not the correct approach to doing your drafting. One thing that I would do differently is to actually look up, to understand, to read up the law regarding the facts which surround your case. Say, for example, if you are to file an eviction petition, rather than listening to the client and drafting your draft away, and then looking at the law which should be applicable on your case and adding that law to your draft, to your eviction petition, I would say, rather than that, first go and look up. If the client says this is, say, for example, a bona fide eviction petition, first I would say go look up the law on bona fide eviction. Look up what kind of terminologies are used by landlords who are filing their eviction petition in the judgments which are being discussed. And especially, of course, those judgments where the decree of eviction is being granted in favor of the landlord. Go and see what kind of terminologies are used. The judgments will often reproduce the prayers which are being sought, the facts which are being narrated. They try to be as detailed as possible. And one major benefit of the craft of litigation is that everything that we need to prepare on, we need to present before the court, the outcome of whatever we are planning in one way or the other, with a little bit of variance, is already there on the internet for free for everyone to see. Indian Qanun, you go. This is this is not a privilege which is extended in other spheres of even the practice of law. For example, if I want to be a merger and acquisition lawyer, if I want to advise companies on how to do their filing so as to be able to effectively do a merger, I don't know where to look. I don't know where to look, how to go about it. I have no idea, because this is all internal dealing. This is all confidential information. But what Mr. Sharma said to Mr. Tyagi, within the confines of their four walls, will all be out dirty laundry for the world to see, because this is litigation and everything ends up on the internet. So this is a huge benefit that we have. We go and research all about eviction laws, all about the facts and scenarios where eviction was granted, and also then subsequently all the facts and scenarios where eviction was not granted. So you pull out and you add the things which did get the eviction done, and you carefully avoid all of those things which denied to the landlord eviction. Once you understand the terminologies which are used, the thought processes of the judges while delivering their judgments, you will be able to draft a far better eviction petition as well. So if I had to offer any sort of advice on the way to do a research before preparing the draft of the case, this is what I would do. Rather than focus on the facts of the case, I would say read up on the law first, then look at the facts and then mold the facts, because one particular fact could be narrated with a combination of millions of words in thousands of combinations. So you need to first understand the law and then see how those legal principles, the mindsets of the judges can be brought in to the facts that you have in front of you, and to mold those facts according to that jurisprudence.
Thank you so much, sir. With this, we would like to conclude the session today. I sincerely apologize to all the students whose query we couldn't take up due to paucity of time. Once again, thank you, sir. We could understand how difficult it can be for someone like you, for a practicing advocate at Supreme Court, to take this much time out for us. And I'm really grateful, and it's so generous of you that you took time for us. And we are definitely looking forward for more such interactive sessions with you in the future also.
I'll always be around. I'm just a few kilometers away. I will be the most excited to come whenever invited by you guys to come and speak more, interact with you guys even more. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for tolerating me for over an hour in my long, often nonsensical rants. Very grateful to all of you. Thank you so much.
Oh, sir, it was indeed a very informative session, I would say, and I'm sure everybody has learned so much from you today. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I'll take your leave then. Goodbye, everybody, and very good luck with whatever is going to happen with the Debating and Discussion Society in the future. Bye, everybody.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So, students, if you have any questions pertaining to DDS Working Committee applications, you may stay back for an informal session, interactive session. Otherwise, rest can leave the meeting. No issues with that. Yeah, Anuj, you can ask the question directly. It's okay. No teachers are there. It's an informal session.
Hi, Vandana. I just wanted to ask, how easy would it be to manage a club like Debating Society along with academics, and what has your experience been in this regard?
Yeah, honestly, if I tell you, it takes time, it takes efforts, but I think it's fine. It's rewarding also. if you are putting your hard work, your efforts, we will definitely acknowledge that, and you will get rewards for that. DDS, in every society, not just DDS, if you're working for any society, BBMCS, PAC or legal aid society, it's not just about the name of society. I think if you are working with the society, you are talking with a lot of talking with a lot of people. You'll be having friends, especially in today's time when online virtual sessions are going on. You don't know who all are there in your classes. So I think it would be a very good opportunity, and definitely this profession, legal profession, it needs contacts in the professional setup. You need to have contacts, sources. So yeah, it would be rewarding, definitely, as far as my experience is concerned. And you will be able to manage this, not as such difficulty with.
Okay, and see, as a fresher, there are so many societies having their orientations. What would you advise? Like, would you advise to join multiple societies, or would you rather say that stick to one society?
See, you have academics as just before that, you yourself has mentioned that you have academics, you have your internships. You would be doing internships. You will be doing moot courts as well. Sometimes you will be having exams also. So it sometimes become difficult to cope up with all the society works also. So eventually what happens that you end up doing justice to only one society. So in the initial year, first year, I would suggest that you can join all the societies. You can explore a little bit, see where your interest lies, in which society, it's rewarding for you. It's actually getting beneficial for you. And then you can decide on second year, you can take the executive course there if you're willing to.
Right, thank you.
We can take some questions which are there on the YouTube also, yeah. Just 1 second. This Aditya Gupta is there. He's asking, working committee members are the only ones allowed to take part in debates? No, it's an open society. So it's not like MCS. It's an open society. If you are a student of Campus Law Center, you are eligible to participate in any of the events here. You can participate in any of the competitions which we conduct. Other questions? How to prepare CV? Someone has asked how to prepare CV for interview. See, for CV, I'm sure you all are graduates. You must be having your CV. If not, then also it's fine. On internet, if you see, there will be so many standard formats you can copy. You can just go through them and decide on what to you want to put it in your CV. Bare minimum essential requirements is it should have your name, your educational qualification, your working experience, if in case you have. Then you can mention about your achievements, your academic achievements, your extracurricular activities, because it's the role is more into the organizing of events. So I would suggest that you can mention about your extracurricular activities, how you have volunteered in other events during school or college level. So you can add those also. Or any other question? How can students participate in this society without being in? That has been already answered. Next question: how can students be part of editorial board? I think that also we have answered. After the working committee induction process gets over, there will be a separate process which will be initiated for the student editorial board. Then what kind of role we will play in law review as first year students? See, at entry level, you will be given the post of associate editor. Okay, so your work, of course, as a student editor, associate editor, we will expect that you have certain kind of good writing skills, good editing skills. So you need to go through all the manuscripts which we receive from across the institutions, from across the the students across the world will be sending their manuscripts. So you have to go through them entirely. Then you have to see the arrangement of the paragraphs, if they are in the order. You have to check for plagiarism. If there is a copied version, you have to check that whether the content is authentic or not. So yes, a lot of work will be there, and it will be very exhaustive work. So yes. Other questions, if you have, in case you can ask.
Yes, I have questions. My question is
Yeah,
about
sure.
uh, my question is about courses or internship. Like there's a lot of courses available in online market, and where they claim that like drafting, research, IPR, lots of things, and they claim that you will waste your lots of time in various law firm. Then you might will learn these skills, but here you can learn under one roof. So should I prefer these courses? Should I invest in these courses, especially in this pandemic time where we stuck at home?
I would suggest, Shahid, you should invest, but your time, not money. So there are a lot of courses which are freely accessible. You just switched on your YouTube and you could get a lot of content out here. So many webinars are conducted in this, virtual mode during this pandemic. So you don't need to actually pay for a course and do it. That's my personal, opinion, which I would suggest to you. And
Okay.
definitely these courses are rewarding. This will definitely enhance your skills.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other student, if you have any question, just after this event, we will be making live the Google form, so you can fill up your form there. Deadline is 25th January. And after the screening process, shortlisting of your CVs, we will be notifying you. We will put a notice on the WhatsApp groups as well, and the Facebook and social media handles also. So you could get the information directly from there. And then we will conduct personal interviews. Okay, I think most of the questions are done, so we can wind up the session. If you have any query, mail us at our official email ID, or you can also WhatsApp directly to me or any of the admins in the group, and they will surely answer your queries. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
once again, welcome to you in the Campus Law Center. Okay, so bye-bye.